Welcome back to our channel, everybody.
Before we start, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on your post notifications. This is going to be episode 7 of Kicking It With the Callies. And today, our guest is Uncle AJ.
Woo!
Oh.
Uncle AJ.
What's good, King?
God bless. How you doing?
Pretty good. How about yourself? You alright?
I'm well.
Got anything you want to say to the camera before we get into it?
That was good. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Foster didn't have to die in life.
He didn't.
You know how that goes.
That hurt. But as y'all already know, when you come to topping it up, we're kicking it with the Callies. You either can pick the topic or the meal. You chose?
I chose a seafood boil, one of my favorites, you know.
Seafood boil.
Love 'em.
You like seafood?
I like crab.
I like seafood. You know what I'm saying? And since we did a seafood boil today, the topic is gonna be breaking out of your shell.
Breaking out of your shell. Interesting.
Where you think you know where this conversation gonna go?
No, I don't. But we'll see.
Let's get in that kitchen. All right, y'all. So we just got the kitchen clean and set up. Now we gotta wash these hands. Now that these hands is clean, let's get into uniform. You want an apron?
I would love an apron.
I got an apron for you.
Yeah.
Love one.
You can have this one. It's my black one.
Give me Ratatouille vibes.
You know, trying to get my Chef Jeff on, you know what I'm saying? Alright, so breaking out of your shell. I don't really consider you a shy person, so we're not gonna talk about it in the sense of coming out of your comfort zone, but pretty much like coming into yourself as an adult person, breaking out of like stereotypes and like glass ceilings that you kind of just put under, you know what I'm saying? Let's talk about some of the boxes you feel like you got put in as a person, like whether it be because of, you know, race or expectation as far as education, like any of those things.
As a person growing up, there were a few different boxes that I was put in. One being a student athlete. It wasn't, you know, the norm for me to step out in other shows, you know, musical performance, theater, and all that stuff. So that was a box that I had to break out of so that people could see a different side of me instead of just, you know, the athletic side of me. I enjoyed kind of living, you know, two worlds as an athlete and stage performer and actor. So that was a lot of fun for me, and it definitely changed my perspective on a lot of things because I'm more open and can express myself in a deeper way now that I stepped out of my shell. From prior to doing, you know, musicals and everything, I wasn't most comfortable, you know, performing and singing in front of others, and that was a big step that I took into opening up.
So you kind of got the same kind of background as far as student athlete and theater. You have like a similar experience to him, or were you not really as boxed in by having to choose between the two worlds pretty much?
I feel like I'm just a little differently because I feel like my world was like academics compared to extracurricular activities. AJ is very gifted in sports. I'm athletic, but I had to like work really, really hard. So just kind of coming out of the academic side, because I've always been like pretty good academically, then in that aspect it's very similar.
I don't really have a theatrical background. I did play like jazz band though, so I can kind of relate to that. Like some people not necessarily thinking a jazz band is a cool thing to be a part of or whatever. I never really cared too much about it though. I feel like my box kind of came from coming from high school to college. In the public schools in Detroit, we kind of put into like a box as far as education. Like we're not expected to go much further, you know, from leaving that. Like it's pretty much like a bare minimum that they teach us. Detroit public schools in general, we got like a bad stigma as far as like, you know, making it out of and past high school. So that was one that I kind of broke out of, and I didn't really do it on my own. Like I needed motivation because it was points in that journey that I feel like I didn't need to even finish, you know what I'm saying? Like I could do things without having that degree, but a part of it is kind of just, you know, representing for the rest of the city. I feel like when people see us do those kind of things, it's like motivation that they could do it as well, you know what I'm saying? Let's start getting into this food though. Got some, how you say this? Andouille?
Doesn't even matter. We're just gonna show.
Sausage. Yeah, make sure they can see that. Got the snow crab.
Snow crab.
We got that good king crab.
Just one.
Just, well, you know, we can't. They cost a lot. I'm sorry.
We got our scallops, sea scallops,
and some good old cooked jumbo scrum.
Certainly not least, the most important are lobster tails.
Got us a few tails in there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna try to make this look all good, taste real good. Got the red potatoes that's gonna go in there. None of us cared too much to have the corn on the cob, so we just didn't grab it, but that's also would be a normal thing to have in the seafood boil.
I might eat a couple. Is this enough?
So Nyla's gonna dice the potatoes up. We're gonna thaw out this shrimp and get the tails pulled off. I'm gonna start boiling this water so we can get the potatoes in there. You got a preference, red or yellow onion?
I don't eat onions. Now, if I can't do nothing in this world, I can deshell some shrimp.
Hello.
Take your little index finger right here, just like that. Pull that. Leave all the meat on there, just like that.
The important thing is to keep all the meat. They cost too much to be throwing meat away. You know what I'm saying? Keep it all. All right. So let's talk about. What do you? Hey, do y'all ever put yourselves in like boxes or kind of put a certain restriction on yourself that you gotta break out of as well?
Yeah, all the time. There are a lot of opportunities that I stop myself from getting that I do regret, but you know.
Did you feel like I can't because I'm like this and this? Is that what stopped you?
No, what stopped me was uncertainty, not knowing how the situation might go or if it might not go as I planned. Not self-doubting or anything, because I know I'm capable of doing whatever I work towards. Right. It's just the fear of unknown.
Yeah. Potatoes are diced.
So what about you, Nyla?
So for me, I think I do put myself into a shell or a box. Sometimes, like if it comes to like job opportunities or scholarship opportunities or just like reaching out to people, I always say, oh, there's always people better than me, or my resume is not good enough, my GPA is not good enough. So I downplay, I feel like myself, which puts myself in that box of less than.
I can say I put myself in a shell unintentionally. I don't necessarily feel like I'm unqualified or incapable of doing things, but I feel like sometimes I look at certain situations as if they can only be done one way. If I can change the way I approach a situation, I feel like I could be able to do pretty much anything. I feel like that is a way that I kind of put myself in a shell, but I've kind of, since I've been aware of it, I've, stopped doing that. Do you think it's like hard to break out of these shells or to get yourself out of the certain mindsets that you put yourself into?
I don't think it's necessarily a hard thing to do. It's just something you have to work towards. It's easy to just stop yourself from doing something, but once you really give yourself that push and that motivation, then it's not as hard. Just like me in track, I often question myself as to why I couldn't achieve certain things. And once I made up my mind that, if anybody else can do it, then why can't I? Then it was always within reach for me.
All right, so YouTube, if y'all could see, I don't know if I was even in the camera, but I've been massaging the lemon.
Perfection.
When I finish, when I do finally cut it and get ready to squeeze it out, the juice will come out just a little bit easier. That's the only reason I've been doing that. All the shrimp peeled, detailed
to perfection,
and defrosted. So now we're gonna get ready to season them up.
So, you guys, what do you think is something that because as a child we're different from when we're adults. What's something that you think is like a big stepping stone into making you the way you are?
I think for me, or in my opinion, for people in general, I think a big thing that will help you just break out of that shell is the first little taste of independence you get, whether it's like more responsibility given, by your parents while you're still in the house, or if it's just like when you leave the house, period, and you just fully on your own. As you begin to assume more responsibility and just take on more of life, you know what I'm saying? I feel like that causes you to have to break out of the shell of a kid, you know what I'm saying? I feel like you continuously break out of shells as you just continue to grow. It's like a snake or whatever, how they just shed. As you grow, you just gonna shed layers, and hopefully you just continuously grow into whatever kind of human you want to be at the end of it all, you know what I'm saying? What's another example of that though for y'all? Like, if not just responsibility, what's one that you kind of felt yourself breaking out of that shell? Because you said it happened during high school, right? Like during plays and school and all that. So what made you kind of notice that you had to break out of the shell?
So that, in high school musicals and everything, in any production, you have to audition for roles. I often found myself, not really auditioning for the bigger roles or, just trying to be chorus just so I can be in it, but, kind of in the back.
Right.
And I'm like, why am I trying to put myself in this in the shell when I know that I could be up there doing
The lead.
right. I think that was a moment where I realized, I mean, everybody was telling me this all along, but I wasn't really listening because I didn't think I had the potential to do it. So once I found that and broke out of that shell, then it was easier for me.
How much can somebody else push you to break out of your shell? Because like you said, other people was already telling you that you could be that lead role or whatever. But it took for you to just realize, like, how much the other people saying that to you contribute to you breaking out of the shell at the end?
A lot. Like, these are people that I interact with daily. Telling me, like, even my athletic friends that weren't on the side of doing the musical stuff that I was doing, they were telling me, like, AJ, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? And I couldn't give them an actual answer besides, I just don't want to do it. I didn't want to do it because of fear.
I don't know if you have the same experience as me, AJ, but do you think that Eli, being so like outgoing and social buzz he is, that we kind of were put into a box like, oh, Eli siblings are Eli siblings? Did you have that same experience? Like, Eli did this, so Eli siblings are gonna do this type thing?
I mean, they put that on me, but I didn't put it on myself. Like, I didn't think that just because Eli did it, then I have to do it. That's what the directors and teachers were saying, like, oh, well, your brother.
Right.
But it was never like that for me. I did it because I actually enjoyed doing it, and I actually wanted to do it. So once I was able to actually find joy in it, besides, you guys who came before me, then it was easy for me to make the decision to do it. Because I had to miss my entire indoor track season to do all the musicals, which was definitely a big sacrifice for me.
Right.
But it was one that I don't regret.
Hey, he seasoned them things, boy. So, question: do y'all think it's a good shell that you can be in?
Definitely. As far as, I think a good show you can be in, as far as letting people in your life or having friends. It's important to, quote unquote, keep your circle small. And
So you like kind of protecting yourself from
outside factors that may hinder you from doing things the right way. So that's a shell that I think is important. And I mean, it's not bad. It's not a bad shell for children.
Yeah. That's one pretty much similar to what I was gonna say, because I was thinking staying out of just out of doing bad stuff, like whether it's drugs and alcohol or whatever. Now that the water is boiling good, we gonna put the potatoes in and just start to season the water with all my favorite stuffs.
We should do that challenge of
Old Bay, black pepper,
But egg,
Presley, Italiano, the GP, the OP. You see that? Cajun seasoning, and then that blackened seasoning. You know what I'm saying? See, YouTube, this the part of the recipe that I don't follow, because I just season stuff that tastes the way I want it to. I feel like everybody should do that. Like, they give you a good little base to what you should use in the seasoning. But if you know what certain seasonings bring to like the flavor that you want or whatever, feel free to add and subtract as you please. You know what I'm saying?
shouldn't we get those crab in some water?
I think the potatoes are supposed to boil longer, so that's why they go in before. But they gonna go in the same water.
Say hi to YouTube, Eli.
Hello, YouTube. This is the meal that AJ chose.
Yes. Now we're cooking the scallops.
Do y'all think that you personally, or just people in general, or a certain group of people are in a shell that you don't know if they'll ever be able to get out of?
I do. I mean, not me personally, but there are a couple people that I know are in shells that they can't get out of. So I think it can be broken out of, but like, for example, there's a couple people that I know that want to start a business or like have this really good idea to put something out there, and I think they just keep putting it to the side because they want perfection when they release it. When I feel like as long as you take the leap and you take the first step, people put themselves in a box where it's like, if I don't succeed, then I'm a failure type thing. But it's not that case. It's like, just start and you can learn as you go. Fail forward, you know?
We gotta cut the sausage. So from here, I'm about to slice the sausage, and then we're gonna add the sausage and the crab legs to the water and let them boil as well. Alright, so it don't look like we're gonna have a big enough pan to put everything in the pot all at once. So we're gonna start to we preparing the lobster tails, and we're gonna bake those in the oven, and then we'll put some of the juice and stuff over it when everything is done being cooked, and let it sit in there a little bit just so I can get the taste of the seafood boil, but it's not gonna get cooked with the seafood boil, you know what I'm saying? Everything else looks like it's gonna fit in the pot though. All right, now it's time to get to prepare this butter. I would recommend waiting till like the food is almost done to make the butter, so it could be like nice and hot when the food comes out, and you can use it fresh. You know what I'm saying? So using a glass bowl, I'm going to melt a stick of butter till it's pretty much a full liquid, and then we'll season it to our liking. Add a little bit of lemon juice and all that kind of stuff. It's gonna be wonderful.
So we melted the butter. Next, we're gonna add a little bit of. We're just gonna squeeze a little bit of the lemon in there, just a little bit.
Now we gotta make sure we season it good.
Okay, where the seasoning?
Season this?
Yeah.
You don't season the butter?
AJ don't cook. He eats.
True. All right, YouTube. So the food is almost done being cooked. We got about 30 more seconds of this lobster in the oven. So last question about breaking out of your shell before we get out of here. Any advice that y'all got for anybody who kind of feels like they in that right there moment where they about to break out but they kind of still holding back?
My biggest thing is think about how you might look back at the situation in the future. So for me, every situation that I didn't do because I was in a shell, later on in life I regretted not doing it because it would have opened up more opportunities or would have created a memory that lasts a lifetime. So just always think about how it would affect you long term. Go for it.
I think that's advice that I would have given too. Like, don't dwell on the past. Don't say what if. Just move forward from there and say, this is what I'm going to do now. So if you have been in the shell in the past, try to step out of your shell, step out of your comfort zone, and just try new things.
I just want to kind of tie this pretty much back into our last video about discipline. If you are afraid to fail, you are less likely to succeed. Like, you got to kind of continue to push the bar. It'll never be comfortable. Like, whenever you're growing, you won't be comfortable growing. So like that scared feeling you have is like it's a good thing because you're probably about to step into like a next level that you've never been to before. So kind of take a positive turn on that pit stomach feeling that you get and make it turn into a positive thing in your mind, and it'll make it a little bit easier to just go ahead and take that last leap. As you can see from the previous video, everything came out looking beautiful. We're about to get ready to make these plates and see what it's talking about, what the taste talking about, you feel me? So Nyla already made her plate. Go ahead, Uncle AJ. So good. It's looking good.
Why they make their plates on myself? Just trying my food.
I'll get that Alaskan king crab.
Ooh, that's a little spicy. These taters low-key could be mashed. I'm gonna try the crab.
Crab came out good.
It's so good.
Let me be the judge of that. TV.
Dang.
What you think?
Not bad.
Taste this butter. See if it
Some of that.
You like the seasoned butter? You like the seasoned butter? Or you can't really tell this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's this scrimp. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Scallop, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then of course, like I said before, the potatoes never fail. Look like another successful chopping it up to me. 7 for 7,
With
ladies
cheese,
and gentlemen.
with cheese.
With cheese. So let's recap the conversation today. We talked about breaking out of your shell. The different types of shells. Some shells are good for you, like the protective shell that your parents put over you as an example. But some of those shells, as far as like insecurity or fear of failure, you got to learn to break out of those. We gave y'all a couple tips to help you with that process. And now we're just gonna go ahead and enjoy this food. So just remember to make every moment count, because a moment without intention
is an opportunity wasted. Peace.